This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Oh, what a great broadcast this is going to be. Yeah, I just want to take a few seconds out to tell you that one of the most important times of the broadcast to me personally is before the broadcast. I get a chance to spend a couple minutes with Dave, our producer, and he and I chat about lots of different things, and we have to compress whatever we're going to say into 3 minutes, maybe 4, and we usually finish up 20 seconds, 30 seconds before the intro starts, and it's a very special time to me, and I want to thank you, Dave, for being with me, for being the producer of this broadcast. It's interesting, class. Dave and I are a team, and we've never met personally. I mean, we meet on the other end of a high-speed digital line. We have never met other than that. And together we broadcast. He knows he knows without ever having met me my idiosyncrasies, and he knows what I'm going to do, and he knows what I'm going to say, and he knows how to handle the controls and that massive board that's in front of him and all the computers to make this broadcast work. Thank you so much, Dave. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USAPrepares.com. And there's a link to your instructors on the website, USAPrepares.com. Converging threats are confronted daily by your instructors. I'm Vincent Finelli. And for those of you who are new to the class, I say this, maybe every 10 days or so. There are over 150 of us here at USAPrepares.com. And we're experts in various areas. Some of us are medical doctors. We're all innovators, engineers, dentists, surgeons, CEOs, broadcasters, researchers, farmers, physicists, inventors. And we're all students rising. We are all students, including me, rising. And some students are becoming instructors. And over the next few weeks, you're going to meet even more of us. And I say this as a compliment to our instructors. None of us is capable of holding down a job. We are all independent thinkers. This is USAPrepares.com. Dave's producing the syndicated worldwide broadcast in Minnesota. Today, we're going to be discussing medicine with Chief Cloudpiler. Yep. And I'll tell you who he is in just a minute. No meetup on Monday. Monday is Memorial Day. Please remember that lives were lost in wars. Old men start wars. Young men and women die. There are other casualties of wars. The families, the soldiers, and the planet. The planet is scarred forever. And as you consider thanking those who served, also remember those men who started the wars. And for what purpose? For personal gain? For bribes? For greed? There's a special place in hell for them. The men who start wars for greed and power. No meetup on Monday, but you do have homework. Many of you will be traveling with your families, and I'm thankful that you're going to be doing that. I really am. Your homework assignment is to turn off the TV. the opiate of the masses. And turn off your cell phone. And discuss your preparedness plans with your parents, your children, your brothers, and your sisters. What will you do? Where will you go? You need to determine that. We can't do that for you. For your own family survival. We're going to be doing that same homework assignment right here on the farm. The same as you will be. Preparing for our survival. With us today is Chief Cloudpiler of the Nemenhah. He is the president of the Native American Church of Nemenhah and the ad hoc elected principal and medicine chief of the Nemenhah. Welcome, Chief Cloudpiler.
I'm honored to be here, Vince.
Chief Cloudpiler, we need to just go through a little bit of terminology. Now, when someone addresses you, do they address you as chief? Do they address you as Cloudpiler, or do they address you as Chief Cloudpiler? What is the correct address?
Well, we have so many different, so many representatives from different tribes involved in the organization that it's up to what is appropriate for them in their own tribe. Usually, it's Cloudpiler. Often, it's Chief Cloudpiler. And, a lot of people just call me, hey, you. But it really depends on what is appropriate from where you come from.
Well, the reason I ask is I have always called you Chief Cloudpiler. And let me spell that for you, class. Cloudpiler. One word, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And Dr. Shealy refers to you as Cloudpiler. I refer to you as Chief Cloudpiler. And I'm just wondering, is Cloudpiler considered a first name, a last name, or both?
Yeah, it's a name.
It's a name. Okay.
Yeah, it's it's kind of shorthand for and anglicized for part of my Indian name, which is too long to use on a radio show.
Okay. And that was another question I had for you, Chief Cloudpiler. Where do the names come from? So, for example, I don't even know Norm Shealy's name. Has that been released?
It has, but it's a very private thing. He would be the one to let you.
I
His
see.
nickname is Cisse. But that's the very, very shortened version. The names are quite long in the language that I use to do the naming in. Just to explain, it's actually our principal stone carriers of our local chapters that have the responsibility to give a person the Nemenhah name. That name is a nickname until that individual actually receives the true name, and they have to do that themselves.
Okay, so this name comes to them in, is it in prayer? Is it in sleep? Is it in a state of mind?
Usually it's from undergoing a vision quest. That's where the true name comes from. I can, in the meantime, as is appropriate in Saheptin-speaking families or in the Nemenhah families, the head of the family, which would be myself, can appropriately give the child's name, or what we call the nickname. But it takes a while to be able to accomplish the vision quest and receive one's true name. And that's a personal revelation.
Okay. And so you received Cloudpiler, or the longer version, as a revelation.
Much longer, yeah, as a revelation. It was the result of a vision quest, and the actual name takes way too long to use, like I say, on a radio show.
Okay. So why don't we take a couple minutes and discuss exactly Nemenhah. Let me spell it for you, class. Nemenhah. And this is a word that Dr. Norman Shealy has used many times on the morning broadcast right here on GCN and on the afternoon broadcasts on KWTO. And he's talked about Nemenhah quite often. So Nemenhah. So, Chief Cloudpiler, what is Nemenhah?
Well, in terms of a word or in terms of the organization? What direction are you headed?
In terms of the organization.
Okay, the Nemenhah is a convocation of healers, and we're intertribal and interdisciplinary. And our mission is to heal the individual, to heal the family, to heal the community, the society, and the planet. So we're pretty far-reaching, but the concept or the concentration is healing, and we're not at all a recreational group or a dues-paying club. We're actually a family organization based in Native American, indigenous, traditional customs, traditions, institutions, that sort of thing.
Okay, and when you talk about healers of the individual and the family and society and the planet, did I get all four of them correct?
There's five.
Correctly? And what was the last one?
Individual, family, community, society, and planet.
Okay. You know, as I look at that, it's very interesting that you use the term healer. We look at it probably in a very similar way at USA Prepares. We need to be a family, we need to be a community, we need to be a society, we need to take care of the planet, and we need to be individual thinkers. And we all need to do the right thing and not harm each other, and all the while helping each other and teaching each other. And I think it's absolutely fascinating as I read through some of the documents of Nemenhah. We are absolutely in perfect synchronization, and I just wish everybody were. I really do.
Well, you know, culturally, at least in the Western industrialized cultures, we're really not doing that much of what you just described.
We're not.
And so
you're absolutely right.
When you say we need to, we're all needing to be healers because our culture is bankrupt in most of those areas, if not all of them.
Chief Cloudpiler, Nemenhah, I'm Vincent Finelli. This is USAPrepares.com. For 2 hours, we're going to be talking about Nemenhah. We'll be right back. Class, we're talking with Chief Cloudpiler, Cloudpiler, one word, Nemenhah. Chief, can you tell us, is the Nemenhah an Indian tribe? And then I'd like to also talk about, you know, we've used the word Indian. When I was in grammar school or elementary school in the 1950s and 60s, we were taught the word Indian. And then later on, probably in the 70s or 80s, it became Native American. And now I believe it's indigenous. Why don't we start with that? What is the correct term, and why was there this change?
Well, the correct term really depends on, you know, what you're studying, what your use of the language is. Indian still in the law means something, and so does Native American, and so does indigenous. But they mean different things. Well, Indian and Native American have been homogenized. Indian means a person who is an enrolled member of a recognized tribe. The recognized tribes would be state or federal, or they're Native Alaskans. And that's all. And those are corporate entities created by the United States government in order to, you know, to work into the American way, the corporate system. These things all have to work in legal parlance and commerce parlance. And, you know, you can't go around saying in those settings that you're talking about a group of people who are legally, really, captive vassals, prisoners of war, and that sort of thing. So the term Indian was borrowed from Columbus, excuse me, but that really, caused a lot of offense among the Native American peoples as their sovereignty was being partially returned to them along about the 50s and 60s. So Native American kind of took over from there. But to be able to say that you're a Native American under the law in the United States, you have to be an enrolled member of one of those recognized corporate tribes. Nemenhah is not a tribe. Nemenhah is a coalition of Native Americans, mixed blood, and fully indigenous people. And, we even have quite a few people who have no Native American quanta, so to speak, at all. We are an indigenous people. And an indigenous people is governed under international law, not your domestic law. So that's an entirely different issue. Indigenous people are those who share traditional territory, whether they now live in those territories or not, or whether they own those territories or not. They share indigenous an origin, language, customs, traditions, institutions, that sort of thing. But the tribes, whether they be crown tribes, say, for example, in Canada or Australia, in the UK or the Commonwealth, or the federally recognized tribes in the United States, they are not necessarily, they are considered indigenous, but not under domestic law. They're considered indigenous under international law. So when you're speaking in terms of Native American or Indian, that would be domestic. Indigenous would be international. Don't know if I answered that question very well, but there are significant differences between the legal language.
So to correctly describe Nemenhah, would we say indigenous?
We would. The United Nations Secretariat on the Rights of Indigenous People have recognized Nemenhah as an indigenous group. And the reason they call us an indigenous group or people is because we have representatives in our organization from many recognized tribes, but we're also very self-determinative. So those, we couldn't really call ourselves a Nemenhah, or we couldn't call Nemenhah a Navajo organization because we have other tribes represented. We have Paiute, we have, Mandan and Hidatsa and Sioux and Tlingit, and it goes on and on. So how do you choose? How do you pick and choose which tribe you're going to call yourself a part of? Since the international law has changed, it makes it very self-determinative. We can actually determine that we are for all tribes and all peoples all over the world at once, and yet we're
Chief, hold that thought. Hold that thought. We'll be right back. We're going into a commercial break. Chief Cloudpiler, Nemenhah. I'm Vincent Finelli. Class, we're talking about indigenous people. We're talking about Nemenhah. Now, Nemenhah is not just the Navajo, the Sioux, the Tlingit. It is, it's all of that and more, and others that are not of Native American blood. It's a convocation of healers. And Chief Cloudpiler is with us. And Chief, if you're wondering where Dr. Norman Shealy is every Wednesday at 9 and 10 o'clock hours, he's here on Genesis with us. So if you were looking for him for those 2 hours, this is where you'd find him. Now, he is a member of Nemenhah, and I understand that he is a high priest.
He is what we for lack of a better English term, that's about as close as we come. The word is Tiwektimpt, and I don't expect you to be able to pronounce that, but it is, it's in a very important position. That means that he is the custodian of an entire society of the global Nemenhah community. And so it puts him right up in literally the highest governing council, administrative governing council, both in the ecclesiastical, the church side of the organization, but also in the administrative secular side. So he's got quite a high position. He just thought he was retiring, but you know.
You know, he is the hardest working 80-year-old I know.
He wears me out. He just flat wears me out.
And Chief, why don't we just share with the class for a couple seconds how we met? You and I met at Dr. Norman Shealy's farm, where he had a little gathering of his close friends. And you and I sat across from each other and got a chance to know each other for a little bit. And I'm so glad that we did. I really am.
It was a great pleasure. It was fireworks night, if I remember.
Yeah, it was. And I'll tell you what, Norm Shealy has, at his farm, he has about a 250-something acre farm, absolutely manicured. He has his institute there on his farm. He has a chapel. He has a chapel on his farm. Chief, I believe you have some meetings and ceremonies there. That chapel is as nice as it gets, isn't it?
It's beautiful. It's inspiring.
It really is. In class, we are not talking about a post barn. We're talking about a steel-sided barn. We're not talking about that.
No.
This is... Man, oh man! When I went in there, of course, I took my shoes off. The hardwood floors, the huge posts and beams, all oak, and I was thinking, geez, I hope the lint from my socks doesn't show up on these floors. It's magnificent. It really is.
I believe he had some Amish artisans come in and did all of that work, and it is exquisite, just exquisite.
Yeah, it really is. And then he gave it to a few months ago.
Yeah.
He gave it to Missouri State University. He gave his entire farm to Missouri State University. What I'll tell you what, it's something else. And so Dr. Norman Shealy, how long has he been part of Nemenhah?
Oh, it's been, it must be 2.5, 3 years now. Mm-hmm. Probably pushing 3 years.
Okay. It seems like, I don't know why this is, but it seems like we've known each other for years and years. I'm talking maybe even lifetimes. I don't. I can't explain that, but it sure seems that way. Okay, so let me ask you this: the Nemenhah does not have tribal recognition. Is that correct?
Well, not from the federal government. We have
That's
those recognitions from the tribes, but not from the government.
Mm-hmm. And is there something that would be incorrect or not advantageous to not have? What is the reason for not having federal government tribal recognition?
Well, the reason is twofold. I kind of touched on it earlier. We have too many members from too many different tribes. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are enrolled members of recognized tribes. Mm-hmm. If we were to, become a tribe, it would be dishonoring their tribes.
I see.
That's reason number one. Reason number two is that we don't feel like, and international law now supports this feeling, we as a people do not feel that we need permission from the government to exist. And that's what corporations do. They really cause organizations to become, in a sense, agents of the state with permission of the state to exist. Mm-hmm. And since the domestic law and the international law does not require it, we just don't feel the necessity, and we're just not inclined to it.
Very interesting that you say that, because I've been hammering away at the Red Cross because I called them. They sent me a letter telling me about the Oklahoma tornado and how important it was to help and help and help. And I'm a Red Cross registered, certified, detected, inspected, and accepted volunteer, but yet they would not allow me to go to Oklahoma to volunteer to help. They would not allow what they call spontaneous volunteers. And so I went on the radio, and for 2 days I've been saying, you don't need permission from the Red Cross or anybody else to go help somebody, and don't wait. Don't wait, and just, if you feel in your heart that you need to do it, do it. And I believe that's kind of what you're saying here. We don't need permission to exist. I mean, come on. And I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. We don't need permission to do some things, and including help other people. So
Exactly. But you know, Vince, under international law up until very recently, the opposite was true. We lived in what was known as a positivist doctrine. The positivist doctrine found its way into all domestic doctrine, all domestic law, and that meant that to do anything you needed permission to do it. But that has changed internationally. The international law has now almost completely moved towards a determinist view, which gives individuals and groups the right and the authority to say who they are without permission. And that sounds pretty weird, you know, talking from the inside of the United States where we're supposed to have liberties. But, you know, the United States was the last country, the last member state over a 25-year period to ratify a doctrine in international law that speaks of the rights of indigenous people.
Well, I met Dr. Adam Fortunate Eagle at an airport, and you and I had discussed this, and he's been on this broadcast. And one of the very first things I said to him after I introduced myself to him, and we're sitting at an airport, he was waiting for his plane, and I was waiting for my plane. It happened to be the same plane. And I apologized to him, and he looked at me and like, what's this all about? And I said, well, I'm really sorry for everything that we've done. I'm sorry for the theft of the land. I'm sorry for the paving of the land. I'm sorry for the pollution of the land. And I'm sorry for everything that the Westerners have done to those who were here first. And he and I became friends, and I'd like to offer that same apology on behalf of all of us, because we have poisoned the land. We have damaged the land. Even here on my farm, which I paid for, which was stolen from those who were here first, we enriched, through my labors, we paid for it, but it was stolen land. And I found things on our property that just bother me. I find barbed wire it's been here for 40, 50 years, rusting, and I keep pulling it out of the ground because it was just left there by carelessness, and it bothers me. It bothers me what we've done, and that's nothing compared to the toxic pollutants that we have placed all over America. So I want to apologize on behalf of all of us that are involved in doing that. It was wrong. It was absolutely wrong. Chief Cloudpiler, when was the Nemenhah formed?
The organization was formed in late in 2001, early 2002. I had been blessed with the opportunity to go and speak to a group of women in Utah about health. I'm a naturopathic doctor myself. I was, and still am, rather hip deep in natural medicine. I had been through a tough ordeal legally, and I had an opportunity to talk about that and talk about some of the comments that the judges in the cases made, and it touched the heartstrings of a group of women, and many of those women were Native Americans in the group, and they decided to come together and have a mother's council and form an intertribal agency or organization for healers. And that's when it happened. That first meeting of the mothers was an amazing thing because they all thought of me as their father, so to speak, in healing. and I wasn't allowed to take part in the meeting. I was locked out. It was a mother's meeting, and in that meeting they elected me to head up this organization. It was a great honor, but I thought it was a master stroke for those women, because they created and ratified a constitution that has now been used as examples, as templates for other indigenous peoples that are forming up around the world. And that speaks to the kind of mindfulness that they had going into that meeting. So we've been around since late 2001, early 2002, and stood the test of time, and it's been quite an honor to be part of the organization.
It's an honor to be with you on the broadcast classroom. Chief Cloud Piler, I'm Vin Finelli. This is USAPrepares.com. We're going to continue for the next hour and 15 minutes talking about indigenous medicine. Chief Cloud Piler's with us, the Nemenhah. And Chief, is it the Nemenhah or is it Nemenhah?
Well, we're dealing with English. In the language, Nemenhah would be all-inclusive, but, in English, you've got to have an article there.
Mm-hmm.
So most of us refer to Nemenhah as the Nemenhah. The Nemenhah is the organization. When we say Nemenhah without the, we're talking about the people themselves. For example, I am Nemenhah. I'm not the Nemenhah, but I am Nemenhah. Does that make sense?
Sure. So it'd be like you are Crow if you were part of the Crow tribe.
Right, but the people is the Crow tribe. It's not Crow tribe.
Okay, so it's the Crow tribe, but you would be Crow.
Yeah, kind of, I guess. It's English. The problem is always English, right?
Yeah, it is. So what is the Nemenhah mission?
Well, the mission is fivefold, and it has to do with healing. It began with predominantly people who were involved with healing people through natural medicine. But the mission goes further than that. The mission has to do with the individual people, animals, trees, what have you. But then it bumps up to the family, and we deal in healing family values. We deal in healing community values, society values, and then the healing of the planet. So this is a big mission. We're certainly not addressing all of those areas quite yet. We are, after all, kind of a young organization. We're only 11 or 12 years old. But, our mission is to have an impact on rethinking and remaking culture in all of those areas. And, that's what we're working hard to do.
Let me ask you this. Yesterday, after the morning broadcast was over at 11 o'clock Central Time, I hopped on the four-wheeler, and I was out there with, our son is on the farm. He's off for the summer, and he and one of his, he's got a roommate here from the college, and they're working on some fencing. And, we were agonizing over having to take some trees out to redo fencing that was maybe 50 years old, rusted, rotting, brittle, breaking, that would not would not contain our cows.
Sure.
And so, we agonized over having to take out some of these small saplings, if you will. I mean, they weren't 150-year-old oaks. They were small saplings that just appeared in the fence line and were tangled in the fence. Now, how does the Nemenhah feel about cutting trees in that purpose? I mean, not the wanton killing of trees, but for a purpose.
Oh, and fixing the fence, for example?
Yes.
Maintaining a fence rope?
Mm-hmm.
Cut the tree.
Okay.
You're maintaining a piece of property. The underwriting rule, I think, for me and I refer to myself as a tree hugger, I I come from a desert area, and so any tree to me is precious. But nevertheless, on my place, I have to bring down trees, and it breaks my heart. But still, the idea, though, is, and the guiding principle is, in your use of the land, whether it's trees or soil or what have you, water, always return more to the system than you take. And if you can do that, then you are blessing the system overall. But our culture and our society doesn't think that way. Our culture and society is exploit the land, get the resources out of it, and then move on.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I'll tell you what, Chief Cloud Piler, we have Mike from Minnesota. Mike, hang on. We'll take your call right after the top of the hour news and break. Mike is a collector of books, and I think he'd like to share some thoughts with us. Chief Cloud Piler, Vin Finelli, USAPrepares.com. We'll be right back after the top of the hour news and breaks. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? This is hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com, and we are from the broadcast classroom with Chief Cloud Piler. We're talking about the Nemenhah. We're talking about the Nemenhah mission and the congregation of tribes. And what is the Nemenhah? What does the Nemenhah do? What do they stand for? Where did it come from? And can you become a member of the Nemenhah if you are not of even a small percentage of Native American blood? So we're going to talk about those things, and we'll talk about the curriculum if you want to be a medicine man or a medicine woman. We'll talk about, is there a personal belief system? We'll talk about, does Nemenhah issue a license? We have a caller on the air, Mike from Minnesota. You're on the air with Chief Cloud Piler, and you are a doctor, aren't you?
I have the doctorate, yes.
Yes, doctor. Now, how would we do this? Would it be Dr. Chief Cloud Piler?
You get to decide. I don't know. They're titles. They're, what do you do?
Mike, you're on with Chief Cloud Piler.
Hi. I just want to share some books with you. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but it's very exhaustive what I need to read to learn this. But it's American Indian Healing Arts. There's one, Secrets of Native American Herbal Remedies. And they're really phenomenal books. American Indian Medicine. Most of these I got from Crazy Crow Trading Post, if anyone's interested in looking these up. Uses of Native American plants and Indian herbology of North America. So I think it kind of covers the gambit. Everything's in here from making poultices to sweat lodge and literally everything in between. I've been planting some over the last number of years, a few different plants, and some I've went out on the edge of the reservation, not far from me, to get like mullein, and found the different uses it has. It's just, if you go in your yard, I'm finding it's just once you understand the plants, just with identification, there. Almost anybody's yard out in the country has a small pharmacy, and they don't even know it. It just goes back to show when the settlers came and they all got sick and died, but Native Americans were healthy because they understood at that time the plants and their uses, whereas the settlers would just, with their carts and oxen, just travel all over this stuff and not even realize that right beneath their feet, the whole trail was medicine that could have saved their lives. It's astounding.
Well, you need to, I don't mean you personally, but we need to be careful how we refer to the settlers or the people that came from Europe, because most of them, if they didn't come right out of a city, knew the herb lore of their own country, their own environment, but they were in a new environment. But the thing about the native peoples or the indigenous peoples worldwide, and we find this by just going and living with them and talking with them, the old people, even the young people in many cases today, is that part of their pattern language, their very daily conversation and their very daily thoughts was wrapped up in what grew, what was healing, what was nutritive, what was useful for building, what was used for clothing, and part of their pattern language was a deep connection with everything that they used in their environment. What came out of the European conquest of the Americas was a disconnection with what grew. Everything that was useful for any of those issues or those factors were not elements in their lives. They were not part of the European pattern language. They brought a pattern language with them, which had to supplant everything else, and so everything that was not found in their pattern language was suppressed and went away. So now we find these things emerging again in books, and we need to be careful, all of us, and understand that these pattern languages were many hundreds strong. There were not just one way on the North American, Central, and South American continents. There were many, many sacred ways. And these pattern languages kept it very deep-seated in their society. And that is something that our culture has nothing of. We really haven't got a pattern language other than what's spewed out of that television that Vincent talks about. And those books you mentioned are tremendous volumes. I have every one of those and many more in my own library.
It's a lot to learn, but it's something that, without question, I think needs to be learned. And we're coming into a time, especially these days, where there will be no doctor, and what we'll have is what makes me so sad is we've destroyed this planet. Everything that could sustain us, that has sustained us for thousands of years, we're destroying the very soil in which it grows. And people need to, all they know, like you said, is the television. When I lived in Hawaii for 5 years, and I love talking to the older people because there's just so much they know, and that if it's not passed on, it's lost. And I learned a little bit about Hawaiian healing plants and things of that nature, and I felt that was such a blessing because some of my friends were pure Hawaiian, not hapa or chop suey. They were pure Hawaiian. Well, no, serious. Chop suey's it's a local term out there.
It is. We have a lot of that in North America too.
Hawaiian, Portuguese, Chinese, Filipino, like that. And so in hapa, you're just Hawaiian and Scotch Irish or something. That's considered like hapa. But and they were pure Hawaiian, and to talk to them, it was such a beautiful experience, and the things that, they were just so happy to pass it on because it's like, nobody, even the kids, they don't want to know about that because they're so wrapped up in this culture with iPods and, well, back then it was cassette tapes and, things of that nature. I'm going back to the 80s here before all of this stuff. But they're all wrapped up in that, and they don't want to know the old ways. But it's like, it's so important now, I feel, more than ever, to know what we would call the old ways. I mean, that's my opinion.
What do we have left in our culture to give to our look at it. Do we have anything that we are, that we're going to be able to hand to our grandchildren and say, hey, this is a good thing? Right now, we may, looking at our culture and what our culture has done in the last 100 years, I'm wondering if we have anything to offer our grandchildren at all. Will there even be much soil anywhere except out in what they would consider wild places to grow anything? Is there a pattern language in America? I don't think there is. It's a pattern language of consumerism, and that's what we're giving to our grandchildren. It's a frightening thought.
That is true.
Mike, thanks so much for your call.
Yeah, thanks for taking it.
I appreciate it. Chief Cloudpiler, very, very good point. What is left in the soil? And I spent some time between the morning broadcast and the afternoon broadcast with one of the managers at an MFA, which is a farm co-op in the little town I live in. And we were talking about lime, and we were talking about restoring the soil. And you had mentioned on hour number one that we are willing to extract natural resources, and when we're done extracting them, when there's very little left, I'm paraphrasing, then we move on to the next patch, the next rich patch, the next rich gold mine, and without much thought about what we have done to the soil. And there is a resurgence. I talked to another man yesterday about liming, and I said, what are the farmers in this area doing? And he said, well, they've neglected their soil for the last 4 or 5 years, and now they are restoring the soil. So even the farmers who are absent of wealth right now because they have been hit so hard, those farmers that are still hanging on are restoring the soil because they realize that without taking money out of whatever else they might need to take it from, without restoring the soil, they've got nothing left. And I think it's great that they figured that out.
Well, they're kind of sort of figuring it out. Still, the Department of Agriculture here in Missouri regard all the cleared land, all the farmable land in Missouri, south of the Missouri River, to be, and they use this terrible term, it's a heartbreaking term, they call it a fescue desert. Mm-hmm. And that's really because we have not, liming the soil and fertilizing and this and that farmers do really isn't restoring the soil. It's a Band-Aid.
It is.
It used to be, back in the day, the southern half of Missouri provided for all of its own food use. Every bit of food that was needed for the residents of Missouri was produced in Missouri, and several large cities, 5 or 6 large cities in the east, were completely supplied by what came out of the southern part of Missouri down here in the forest region. Mm-hmm. We produce less than 2% of what we consume today because, our culture has moved that way. It's globalized, but also because the soil is so depleted that it can't produce. Mm-hmm. Down here, right. we used to not see so much in pasture. We saw a great deal more in orchards and hop farms and tobacco and a lot of high-producing agriculture.
Chief Cloudpiler, hold that thought. We're going into a break. We're going to come out, and we'll talk more about it. Class, next Friday, I'm going to be broadcasting live from St. Charles, Missouri, at the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Conference, CSPOA 2013 convention. And it's with Sheriff Richard Mack. I will be there. The freeze-dry guy, you hear a lot of his commercials here on Alternative Radio, on this network, and others. And I just want to say a special thank you to my friend, the freeze-dry guy, because, class, you may not realize this, but he does a lot more than sponsor radio broadcasts. He helps sponsor events like the Constitutional Sheriff's Conference, where he helps bring in sheriffs from all over the country to get the word out about the Constitution and help share the message with you and others about how much trouble we're in and what we need to do about it. So next Friday, I'm going to be broadcasting live from St. Charles, Missouri at that conference. And I'll post information on the website probably over the weekend about that. And I'm going to be broadcasting live with Sam Bushman And he's a veteran broadcaster, and he and I are going to be broadcasting live for 4 hours on Friday, May 31st. So I'll let you know more about it. And also, he's going to be on this broadcast. I'm going to be on his broadcast. And I want to say something else. This afternoon, I'm going to be doing a special broadcast on KWTO AM 560. And if you want to listen, you can go to usaprepares.com. And click on Listen to Vincent. There are 3 ways you can listen. One way is on GCN, another way is on KWTO. You can only listen live at 3 o'clock Central. There are no archives for that particular broadcast. And here's why I'm mentioning that. I'm really, really frustrated with what I hear on the radio. All broadcast mainstream radio is frustrating to me. I'm not describing any particular radio station, and mainstream television is worse. We have, you know, as I drive to the studio, or if I drive to a meetup, I'll listen to what some other programmers or broadcasters are doing, and it's very frustrating. The quality of the broadcast, the quality of the information, it's hyper audio. It's designed to keep you on the edge of your seat, but the message is absent. It's a mindless parade of useless, non-stop gibberish. And because of that, I'm going to, and my contract is up in about 13 days on KWTO, and I'm not sure if I want to continue the afternoon broadcast or not. I'm going to stay here on Genesis. I love Genesis. But I don't know if I want to stay on KWTO. And here's why I'm telling you all this. I've decided that I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I'm going to tell you about my education, my background, what I've done, things I've learned, why I despise politicians, why I don't like lawyers. And then after I tell you who I am, I'm going to open it up for a free-for-all. It can be all of the listeners who feel like calling, and you can attack me any way, shape, or form you'd like. And that's what I'm going to do this afternoon. You know, there are a lot of people who want to broadcast, and all they have to do is have some money, and they can pay by the hour to be on the radio. Now, my concern is I hear some of these people say things that it makes me crazy. It absolutely makes me crazy. There are people who will tell you that there are conspiracy theories, and it's nonsense. There are people who will tell you that chemtrails are good. There are people that will tell you that FEMA camps are good. There are people who I've even seen and heard personally say, well, it's a good thing that Department of Homeland Security is buying billions of rounds of hollow point bullets. That's good. That's good because they're safer. Now, what in the heck are they buying them for? Well, I question those people. I question people who say, do not self-deploy. Do not self-deploy and help people who are in need. Like in Oklahoma right now. Don't self-deploy, says the Red Cross. Nonsense. Nonsense. It makes me absolutely crazy. So here's what I'm going to do. This afternoon, I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm going to discuss my formal education. Am I an entrepreneur? Did I start any businesses that were successful? Why I don't like politicians? And then, of course, it's open season on me. Okay? And then I'm going to suggest that after you hear that, then you call all of the talk show hosts that you listen to and ask them, just who are they? And where do they get off saying some of the things that they're saying to give you misinformation, disinformation, and send you down the wrong path? When we come back, Chief Cloudpiler, I'm sorry I hit my own button. Chief Cloudpiler and I are going to talk about how you can become a member of Nemenhah. We'll be right back. Chief Cloudpiler's with us, and he's the Nemenhah. And Chief Cloudpiler, how does one become a Nemenhah member? Now, I have I believe I have a 0% of native blood. Would I qualify? I'm sorry, did we lose Chief? Hey Dave, I do not have the return.
Ben's not there. I'll get him.
Okay, so we lost Chief Cloudpiler. We're gonna get him back, and I've got some questions for Chief Cloudpiler. I'd like to know who qualifies. May I become a member? Now, I know that I have the application. I've had a tough time sending in my application because my software does not work with the website for downloading the application, but I've talked to him about it. I'd like to know who qualifies. I have no native blood. My heritage is from Italy. My parents on both sides had parents who came from Italy, and but frankly, I don't speak a word of Italian because when my grandparents came to this country, they said, "This is America, and we're going to speak English." So I was never taught Italian. If I hit my thumb with a hammer, whatever I say is going to be in English. And we're going to learn about the Supreme Court. And let's see. Oh, you need Chief Cloudpiler's phone number? Let me see. Let me type it in for you. Just a second here. If you can bear with me. Vinny can only do one thing at a time. I've got to type in the number because we lost Cloudpiler. I'm typing that number right now. Okay. I just sent Dave, our producer, Cloudpiler's number, and it's correct, and he's going to contact Chief Cloudpiler. Chief Cloudpiler is a dear friend of Dr. Norman Shealy, and Dr. Norman Shealy, for lack of a better term, is a high priest of the Nemenhah tribe, or band of tribes. And Dr. Shealy speaks very highly about Nemenhah and his association, and vice versa. The Nemenhah speak very highly of Dr. Norman Shealy. I'd like to know if how we apply, what the process is on our end, and then what's the process on the other end when our application is reviewed. Has it been tested in the Supreme Court and district courts? And does the Nemenhah issue a license? And if they don't, why they don't? And also, is the Nemenhah membership a get-out-of-jail-free card? Is it one of those? Or not? And what is required of Nemenhah members? Does it have a curriculum for medicine men and medicine women? And what about the personal belief system? I'd like to know how your personal belief system, my personal belief system, fits in with Nemenhah. And is it just for practitioners of natural medicine? And what happens if I'm driving along and I get stopped by the police and I'm on my way to a sacred ceremony? Does being a member of Nemenhah have any effect in that situation? And my farm, I would like my farm to be consecrated as sacred ground. I want it to be consecrated as sacred ground. I'd like to restore the farm back to the best natural farm it can be, although I do need to have some pasture. And our farm is about 50% pasture and about 50% wooded. We try to keep it as natural as possible. We have a stream that runs through it, and I want to protect the stream. I don't want to destroy the stream. So those are some of the things I'd like to talk about with Chief Cloudpiler. The Question is he back with us? Dave, is Chief Cloud Piler with us?
There's no way.
Okay, so it's just going to be you and me. Hey, we've never done this, have we?
Not to my knowledge.
Are you ready?
Well, I'm sure.
Okay, so you and I are on the air. Well, let me ask you this: what is it like? What's it like broadcasting with Vinny? Are you challenged? Well, seriously, Dave, what's it like? I mean, you broadcast with others. You are the producer of many broadcasts. Do I present any specific challenges to you?
You know, coming from a different place, I think, than you. I don't come from the place politically, but I got to say I tune in and pay attention, thankfully. But I think it's really just fascinating, from the breadth of the topics to just the professionalism that you bring to the show. You know, my favorite show is the garden lady. Who was it? She came on, was talking tomatoes.
You're talking about Lucinda Bailey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where she has the seed packets, or the
she has a seed vault.
The vaults, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was like probably one of my favorite shows, and I don't even know why. I think it was just kind of cool just to have a situation where, explaining in depth on how to be responsible for your own food, and how to do it the right way. And it was just it was a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun, just because it's always a different topic. Maybe the same topic, but perhaps a different person. Like today.
Mm-hmm.
This might be.
Yeah.
Hold on one second.
Okay. All right. So we were talking with Chief Cloud Piler, and we lost the connection for some reason. And maybe it's because we're going to talk about the law component of Nemenhah and what it can do for you. You may think this is crazy, but I'm sitting here in Missouri in our studio, and in our studio we get disconnected from the broadcasts, not regularly, but often. And sometimes I wonder if it's because of the topics that we have.
I'm not sure if I'm coming out there, but you're still there, Vince?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah, just that got disconnected right there. As a matter of fact, having troubles trying to get him back on the show.
Yeah.
But
is he with us?
No, he's not. It was
okay.
It was a hang up when I got to the phone.
Okay. I just got a message that your audio is low. Is our class able to hear your audio?
I think so. Is that a little better?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay. So when you broadcast with me, and is it a surprise at the kinds of things that we say compared to... See, I don't get a chance to listen to radio very much. I just started over the weekend. Is it a surprise, the kind of things that our instructors say, the format?
You know what? The breath of fresh air that it is that even in your most passionate times, you're not screaming. You're not, maybe raising the voice, but you match it with the intensity, and it's that's the biggest difference, I think, between broadcasters who may say and believe or talk about the same things, but the platform it comes from I'm not going to listen to someone screaming at me. I will listen all the time to someone who backs it up with facts and reason, and absolutely with passion.
I'll tell you an interesting story about that lady that you mentioned. She, I want to be careful how I say this, but I'm gonna try to. I'll say it the best way I can. I had heard a rumor that she had paid for advertising. This has nothing to do with Genesis Communications Network class. Nothing. This is about radio advertising that she paid for on a completely different radio station. And I heard this rumor that she had paid for it and that the radio station did not deliver it. And I felt really bad about it. So I called her up, and this was just a rumor, and she confirmed it. And I decided that that was wrong. Now, even though I wasn't involved in the slightest, I wanted to help her get her message out because I thought her message about gardening was really, really good, and she could teach people. So I asked her to come on the air with me and teach people about gardening and how we could double the yield on our tomatoes and what we could plant. And then I invited her to the expo. And I told her I would pay her entry fee and so forth at the expo. I wasn't able to pay her a travel fee, but I'd be glad to help her get her message out if she would give some seminars on growing food. She agreed. And that's why she's one of our instructors at usaprepares.com. That's how it happened. And, you know, there's so many stories about the little people that get beat up. I just can't stand it. And that's who we are. We don't want that to happen. I'm Vin Finelli. We'll be right back. Chief Cloudpiler's back, and we've only got a few minutes. Chief Cloudpiler, how does one become a Nemenhah member? Who qualifies?
Well, our organization is a family organization. And we use an ancient tradition known as the making of relations. And in that way, all self-determinative organizations can adopt members to its own family. And that's what we do. It's called the spiritual adoption. And as far as who qualifies, we've talked about that fivefold mission. And if a person can, declare that they fit or that they have dedicated their sacred spiritual purpose in their lives to one point of that fivefold mission or all of them, then that qualifies. That's the eligibility.
Okay, and then to apply, I'm sure we have some students in the class who are interested in applying. I have a link on page 1 of the website to Chief Cloudpiler, and just go to page 1, USA Prepares. It'll take you to Nemenhah.org, and you can click on that. It'll take you right there, and you can see the website and go to the application. Has this been tested in the Supreme Court?
It has. We didn't really get into the governing laws that make what we do very firm and very, very protected. We might want to do another show about that. But it absolutely has been tested from the lowest court, the district court, all the way up to the Supreme Court. And so there's no question about it. There's no quibbling about it. We have the ability to declare what we believe, and we can finally speak truth and practice our beliefs. And that's a big change. It's about time. It's come a long way.
Does Nemenhah issue a license?
We do not. We issue what is known as a ministerial authority. Every member of the Nemenhah is a minister of our sacred way. And that makes you literally a pastor, a minister in a healing ministry. So we don't issue license because we don't think you need permission. Mm-hmm. And we're not a government agency, and those are the only agencies that are allowed to issue license unless it's for intellectual property. Mm-hmm. So it's just not appropriate.
Okay. And the get-out-of-jail-free card, can you address that terminology? Well,
a lot of people join in organizations like this because the law seems to give them a carte blanche. They can do whatever they want to. It's not that way. What a minister represents has to be borne out and proven by pattern of behavior, and that's what our training curriculum is about, and that's what our chapter organizations are about, to be able to create a solid pattern of behavior for people so they're not making false representations.
Mm-hmm. And I can see, Chief Cloudpiler, I can see going to a meetup at Ziggy's on Monday nights. And by the way, there is no meetup this Monday, class, at Ziggy's. There is no meetup. I can see going to a meetup at Ziggy's as being a meeting of the ministry, if you will, about the sacred healing, because these are the things that we talk about. We talk about renewable sources of energy. We talk about solar power, wind power. We talk about how to conserve, how to be frugal. We talk about how to plant, nutrition, safety. I mean, all of these things, I think, fit in with the family values, the community values, the healing of the planet, the individual responsibilities. If I were on my way to one of these meetings and I were stopped by the police, and it's going to happen. It's happened already. Are there any advantages for me being part of Nemenhah?
There are, because the card that you would show that officer would show you as a minister of the church, Native American church. And we probably ought to spend some time talking about that. We don't have enough time today, but
no, we get like 10 seconds.
That would totally cover you on the way to perform your ministry.
There you go.
Government can't burden without, qualification.
There you go, Chief Cloudpiler. Let's come back, and this is 101. We're going to do 102, 103, 104, 105, and keep going. Absolutely fascinating information. Chief Cloudpiler, thanks so much. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.